as carriers of the marketing banner, we should do good marketing. We should not just do quantity and brute force results out of spamming people. We should let them be humans.
That was Andrus Purde. He joined Pipedrive as a part-time marketing advisor back in 2011, when the company had 0 paying customers. In a few years, he became their head of marketing, and by the time he left, Pipedrive had over 70,000 paying customers and was doing 8 figures in annual recurring revenue. Andrus then went on to create his own startup, Outfunnel, which does sales and marketing automation. Today, they're somewhere between 0.5 and 1 million in annual recurring revenue and have over 1,000 paying customers. Given that Pipedrive was bootstrapped, I was super interested to learn how they did marketing back in the day, how they changed over time, and what Andrus is now doing differently with Outfunnel. We also discussed software review websites, app marketplaces, and AppSumo deals.
I got this very good product in the hands of people who were happy to then spread the word. So I would think that it still might work if you have.
We exchanged thoughts on creative marketing, and Andrus shared a story of painting ads on a tram to promote Slack. And finally, we had a little debate about marketing analytics and marketing attribution, which is always a fun topic to discuss.
Let's have a debate. You call yourself analytical. I would call myself analytics agnostic.
My name's Tim Solo, and you're listening to Ahrefs podcast.
Ahrefs podcast.
It's actually pronounced Ahrefs.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Let's do it again. Ahrefs podcast.
Okay, so I actually want to start off giving you some compliments about your blog, but it's hard to pronounce it. Purde.net, Purde.net. How do you pronounce it?
Well, in Estonian, it's Purde.
Purde.
But I don't expect any other nationality to pronounce it well, so I think Purde.net is good enough.
That's your last name, basically.
Yeah.
Purde. It's how it sounds.
Yeah.
So I think your blog is how I originally discovered you. I don't remember how. Maybe I was searching for something in Google, but I stumbled upon your blog. I started reading a bunch of articles, and especially I love the articles of taking Pipedrive to 10,000 customers, to 50,000 customers, and then some other kind of marketing frameworks that you've shared that kind of you swear by. And I loved your content because it is fairly short compared to today's kind of trend of making articles as long as bloated as possible. You just say just enough what you need to say. Anyway, where I'm going with this, I love and agree with your marketing ideology so much that I'm now thinking to just plug your articles in ChatGPT, tell it to rewrite it, and publish them on my blog.
Maybe you can invite me as a guest author instead. I'd love to relook at some of my old frameworks and post them, then see if they still make sense, and then ask myself ChatGPT to rewrite them, and then get all the credit.
No, seriously, I love your blog, and whoever is listening, I do invite them to visit Purde.net. I don't think you published a lot of articles in the past 3 years, but even the previous content that you published before, a lot of that, most of it still holds true today, most of the frameworks.
Yeah.
So
I'm very glad that you like it, Tim, and I think it's just a good reminder that it does make sense to blog. Many people, I think I've made many new connections, many new friends even through my blog. And last 3 years I haven't published it, but I've been publishing on the Outfunnel blog. So same depth. Maybe I should kind of link from my personal blog to Outfunnel blog and say, hey, just all the new writing is over there. So thank you for that reminder.
Probably some banner to notify people that you're now writing at a different place. And speaking of AI content, I also I was listening to some other interview that you've done, and you said a phrase that I really liked in terms of AI generated content. So what you said is, I don't know if you remember it or not, but if we all pee in the pool, it would be a very unpleasant place to swim at.
I still swear by that. I think the same is true for cold emails, and so I think if you approach anything with just brute force and quantity, then we're just killing marketing. Maybe we'll get short-term results here and there, but it's not sustainable and it's not smart marketing. I do hope that, I'm not a marketer anymore by title. I'm a recovering marketer, but I'm still involved in marketing very much. Still love marketing even, not every day, but most days. And I just think we should all as marketers, as carriers of the marketing banner, we should do good marketing. We should not just do quantity and brute force results out of spamming people with either they're searching or reading their inbox. We should let them be humans.
And that basically wraps up the section of our podcast about AI content, because I really don't want to talk about it. I'm not a fan in the state that it is today. So you're a recovering marketer, but you have been in charge of marketing for Pipedrive for 7 years. Is that right?
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I mistook this somewhere, but you were employee number 2 at Pipedrive?
Yes and no. So I was team member number. So Pipedrive had 5 founders, and then I was the second non-founder to join. But I joined as an advisor first. So I didn't join full time as an employee, and I think until 3 years later. So I was an advisor and then a contractor. So at some point I started being there 1 day a week, at some point 2 days a week, at some point 3 days a week. And then I realized 3 years later that I have a job, I think. So I never applied to Pipedrive. They would never have accepted me, but I just kind of ended up there, and I think it worked out well for both parties.
Can you tell me that story basically from the beginning? How did you join Pipedrive? What did you do for them in the first year or 2 or 3 while you were kind of consultant or something? What changed when you joined them in-house, and how your responsibilities have changed, how your team has changed? So can you walk me through those, first 3 to 5 years
Yeah,
as a marketer from the marketing perspective? I want to know kind of what you were busy with as a marketer for this company. And again, to give context, what stage was Pipedrive at when you joined? Did they have any customers? Did they have any revenue? Did they have any funding? What was the situation?
So Pipedrive had no revenue, no customers when I kind of started working with the team. But they were about to launch. They were about to launch in a couple of months. So they had a name, they had a logo. One of the co-founders was a brilliant designer, so they had a pretty good visual identity, but they lacked the marketing skills in the team. And I had just finished my tour of duty at Skype. And then in the early days, just needed to call it something, needed to say what it does, do some basic product marketing. And then the business co-founders of Pipedrive had a successful sales consulting, sales management consulting business in the Baltics. So the early customers were just hand-to-hand combat. So it was using network and customers, network and kind of friends and clients to get the first customers. Also, one of the co-founders was a guy called Ragnar Sass, who was very active in the startup scene. So he had lots of startup friends who then also tried out the product. So the early, I think, first 20, 30 customers were just hand-to-hand combat. And based on the feedback, it seemed like the product was still very MVP-ish. So it wasn't fully developed. It didn't have all the necessary features, but it was already getting a lot of love. So feedback was positive, although it didn't do most things it should have done. The core functionality of visualizing your sales pipeline worked brilliantly, and then it was really made sense for this CRM to take off, because it was probably the first CRM that was built around the salesperson's need, not the sales manager's need. Feedback was positive, but growth was very kind of slow. So if you have loyal and raving fan type customers in Estonia and even Latvia and Finland, these are not countries known for their word of mouth kind of things. Don't spread. People don't talk to each other that much, or if they do, they talk about something other than software. So we had customers who loved the product, but there was no viral growth. So the growth was linear, not hockey stick like. And then the founders then got into AngelPad, which is an incubator in San Francisco, and then did a lot of hustling there. One of the things they did a promo with AppSumo, and then they did a lot of kind of just pitching at different events and being around with got some first TechCrunch mentions as part of AngelPad, and that got the same product, which wasn't ready, in the hands of much more vocal customers, and we can then start seeing some viral growth. So product was the same, but because there were some more influential users in Silicon Valley, the product started growing more organically. So there were more people just coming to the website and creating an account and using it. So my lesson from the early days was that you need to figure out where your influencers are in the early days. And these influencers, at least for a CRM product, at least in 2010, were not in the Baltics, were not in Finland.
Let's dig quickly, because you mentioned AppSumo, and I had it on my list of questions. So I wonder, what was your experience at AppSumo? And I will tell you again the backstory of Ahrefs, because I think in the first year or second year since me joining, someone from AppSumo reached out to us and said, let's launch Ahrefs on AppSumo. We can drive like tons of customers to you. And first I got excited because I'm a fan of Noah Kagan. I was like watching a lot of his content, and I did want to like do something with him. But then I realized that they wanted to sell a lifetime deal. Like right now, everyone apparently knows what AppSumo is all about, that they sell lifetime deals. But back, what it was like 7 years ago, I wasn't that knowledgeable about what they do. So yeah, they said, we want a lifetime deal. I said, but we don't have any kind of subscription package or the kind of product that we would sell lifetime for like a one-time fee. And they said, just build it. Kind of like cut your features here and there and offer something that you can offer lifetime indefinitely. I went to Dmitry, our CEO and founder, and said, like, there's this thing, AppSumo, they want us to create some kind of deal that we can sell, like, I don't know, for $40 or like $30, and people would be using it during their lifetime. And Dmitry just said, no. We're not doing this. We're not like investing our engineering resources, and we're not going to like later deal with, I don't know, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people who would purchase this deal for like little to nothing, and then they would be using the product continuously. And even if we turn off the customer support for them, they would still post something, I don't know, on Twitter, on Facebook, so it would be a distraction. So eventually we didn't do our AppSumo deal, but since then I saw quite a few companies, specifically in the marketing tech space, launching on AppSumo, bragging about it, writing articles on how they orchestrated their successful launch on AppSumo and made like and attracted. By the way, I think AppSumo takes like 70% of all sales. So you do all this work, you have to support customers for your lifetime, and all you get is like 30% of what they would pay for an already like super discounted account. So yeah, again, I love Noah, but I have no idea how they persuade founders to do those lifetime deals. So I wonder, like, how did it go for you back then, and what do you think about it today?
So I think AppSumo, this was now back in 2011, was a different company with different users back then. So it was, I would guess, there was no product hunt then. So it served some of the same niche as product hunt does now. So or product early adopters, not just people. I think maybe AppSumo right now, I'm speculating, is people who are hunting bargains, who just want good deals. So people who would go to Lidl and Aldi to shop. Or maybe the very cheap discounters. I think back then it was more like product early adopters who also want to get a good deal. So for Pipedrive in 2011, I think it worked really well because we knew that getting some spread and usage and happy customers in the Baltics and Nordics didn't do much to viral growth. But after being present in the Valley for a couple of months and after doing the AppSumo promo, and then AppSumo, I think customers were very US centric. It would have been impossible to reach the same users from Estonia back then. So it worked out well for Pipedrive. Yes, I think it was a very low amount of revenue, but Pipedrive's costs were very small, and then the revenue was very small. So even that revenue, which was tiny, added up to growth, and more importantly, it got this very good product in the hands of people who were happy to then spread the word. So I would think that it still might work if you have a good product, a great product even. So which would generate word of mouth. Then I think it may still be useful to use it. But back then it worked out well for Pipedrive. I don't remember the deal financials exactly, or what the price was. It was a very good deal. AppSumo got a good chunk of it, but it still left enough for Pipedrive to be called a success financially, but even more so a success in terms of marketing tactic to get the word out about this new way of doing CRM.
So back in those days, you were a one-person marketing team, essentially.
I was even like a 0.2% person marketing team, because I had other Pipedrive. I had this kind of advisory deal where there was no money exchanged, so I had to consult and do other things to pay my bills. So I wasn't at Pipedrive full time for the first couple of years. Each year the commitment increased, but not me or even the founders were with Pipedrive full time in the early days, in the early years.
But do you remember any particularly effective things that you did early on while you were even like 0.5 marketing team?
So I remember that after this AppSumo deal, and then after like the organic growth has started to appear, and we had some, and then I think Angel had invested some money into Pipedrive. So we had a budget then. So we could do something in marketing. We could start doing things. We could start marketing properly. And then HubSpot had this thing called Website Grader. And I plugged in Pipedrive, which Website Grader told you what queries you're ranking for. And it ranked for 0 queries. It ranked for nothing, as it was a new website. So it kind of made sense that it ranked for nothing. So the first thing I did was thinking, what's the thing Pipedrive should rank for? Like with a brand new domain with 0 kind of domain ranking. And then I went for something which described the product very specifically. So sales pipeline management software was the first thing, because that's what the product did. It was a sales pipeline management software. The search volume was, I think, something around 60 or 100 searches in US. But I thought that's good enough, because these are the people who should find Pipedrive. This is the first tool who actually serves their needs. Other tools may have sales pipeline functionality, but this Pipedrive thing actually does best what these people are searching for. So change the H1 on that page to that, and then use that term a lot. Did some very early link building. I asked some friends to link with these words to Pipedrive, and then we got ranking, I think, very quickly, because the competitiveness wasn't also very high. And it immediately started converting users. So I think it makes sense in the early days to optimize for not something fancy like so CRM software. I think gets thousands of searches per month, but I think we would have had the same amount of conversions had we start ranking for that theoretically as we did when we ranked for what the tool does exactly.
So essentially, like one of the first strategies that you've implemented for Pipedrive, or like tactics or whatever, was SEO.
That was the only thing we could afford. We also had some budget to do Google Ads. I think literally we had 300 euros or 500 euros per month to do Google Ads. But we could afford these two hands typing on a keyboard. We couldn't even afford outsourced writers. So I had to learn how to manage. Like I didn't know anything about sales management. I didn't care that much about sales management. I was a marketer. But then I had to read and then talk to like these two business founders of Pipedrive and understand how does this sales thing work? What's important? How does a sales manager think? What are the problems that they have? So I didn't talk to customers right away, but I had two very brilliant sales management people sitting in the room, and I tried to then lure them away from them doing product work or sales work, and I just tried to get inside the head of a sales manager and then use it to write content.
I obviously like that one of the first things that you did for Pipedrive was SEO, given that this is Ahrefs podcast. And if someone who's listening to this is not familiar with Ahrefs, we're an SEO tool and we have plenty of educational materials because, like you said, you had to figure it out. And it's not a rocket science, let's be honest. Like many of the SEO concepts are quite simple, especially when you need to take care of the basics of the foundations. But if I'm not mistaken, I've also seen on your blog, you mentioned the concept of, I think it's called category awareness, right? Can you explain it?
So CRM is in a category which people know. So people who are in sales or sales management, they know what the CRM is. So if right now, so we didn't need to kind of create demand in a way. We need to capture demand or harvest demand, as I like to call it. There's other types of categories in software. So if you're doing blockchain-based home management, so that's a new category. Like nobody's searching for blockchain-based home appliance management. So in order to So with low category awareness, nobody's searching for you. SEO is useless. Google ads are useless. Then you need to go to social media ads, advertising, PR, these kind of things. But with something like CRM, category awareness is high. Almost everybody knows what a CRM is. Then you don't need to do the expensive thing of creating demand. You need to harvest demand. And then we just did some keyword research. We used SEO Moz, or Moz as it was later called.
Back in the day.
And I think I've signed up at least 3 or 4 different SEO Moz or Moz accounts because I wanted to get the free trial again and again because we didn't have the budget.
Eastern Europe, mate. Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
I did the same thing.
Yeah. Now we're actually with Outfunnel, we are a paying happy customer of Ahrefs. Have been, I think, from day one.
So basically, category awareness to come to it from a slightly different angle. If people know that the problem or the software or some product exists, they would search for it in one way or another. So typically Google, or like up until today Google, because some people are now saying that TikTok is becoming a search engine, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, people would search for things that they know exist, and they cannot search for things that they don't know exist. And the thing is, like you say, I like the word harvesting. I like the phrase harvesting demand, because if you are in the category where there are lots of people who are aware of the problem, who are aware of the solution, and they are actively searching for it because they know that it exists, and you're not doing anything to harvest this demand, to capture those people, you are seriously missing out. And there's a typical question, like when should companies start investing in SEO? How would you answer that?
Depends on what your company does, right? So if your company does sales CRM or sales pipeline management software, it makes sense to start investing it on day one or before day one, before you launch. If your company does blockchain-based management software for vets, then maybe you should never invest in SEO. Maybe just buy Instagram ads and do very clever TikTok and Instagram content. But I think for most companies, and then there's no companies with 100% category awareness, and there's also very few or no companies with 0% category awareness. there's usually you're on a sliding scale.
Yeah.
But one side dominates. So I think either you should be kind of usually you should build up your marketing function and team either as keeping the hat on, which is with high category awareness. So you're search heavy, you're capturing demand heavy, you're Google paid ads, text ads heavy, or you are kind of with a low category awareness or kind of where you need to interrupt people. And then you need to optimize for social media, ads, viral, word of mouth, all these good things. Actually, word of mouth is you should optimize anyway. Word of mouth works.
We'll talk
everywhere.
about word of mouth a bit later. Do you remember your first marketing hire at Pipedrive? Who did you hire, and what did they do?
So the first marketing hire, I wasn't hired by me. So because I was. So the Pipedrive's need for marketing kept growing, and I still had other commitments elsewhere. Then one of the founders brought in another marketing consultant like me, whose name is Kair, who later co-founded Klaus, which was just acquired by Zendesk some months ago. So congrats to him on the exit. Everything he learned, I taught him, anyway, just for the record. But then, so Kairi came abroad as well. And then at some point we did just like splitting tasks. And then at some point realized that one of us should really lead this team and the other one should kind of, not co-lead, but follow. Kairi was very understanding and very, I think, accommodating to say that actually you make more sense as a head of marketing. And then, then we started to kind of divide and conquer. And we both kind of, because we didn't know what was working, we need to kind of change gears and try different tactics all the time. And then different needs came up. So at some point we needed to work on onboarding emails. At some point we needed to work on paid ads. At some point we needed to work on website. So we kept, I think, changing what each of us does as a focus. We tried to stay away from overlap, and then just kind of divided and conquered flexibly, I think. So every 2 months we would have different jobs in a way. So two kind of full stack marketers, I think, was a great early marketing team. Both had some depth in some areas, but we could just freely roam around marketing. We didn't know any field super well, but we were kind of dangerous enough in any marketing field where we could just take on everything.
So would you say you were experienced enough to kind of tackle any challenge because you've been there, done that? Or would you say that you simply was confident to just figure things out? Like, we need onboarding emails, let's figure it out. We need to run some ads, let's figure it out. We need some landing pages, let's figure it out. Or like, we need some landing pages, I already know how to do it, I did this, so let's do this.
So I think by then, I'm an ancient person. I've been around for hundreds of years. So by then I had already done I had already done tech marketing for more than 5 years. So I think more than 7 years actually. So I think I had enough experience myself, but also I was quite arrogant and thought I could do anything. And luckily, Kair was in a similar boat. So I think
that's not always a bad thing to be arrogant, by the way, right?
Yeah. I think it's just, in hindsight, I should have not been arrogant, but it helped me at the time because I really didn't know, but I really wanted to know, and I had, I had some of the brains and all of the motivation to try and fail and then move on. Mm-hmm. But I also think we used consultants where we could. We brought in help. We had a growing budget, some good advisors. We could tap for, we could tap other resources and ask around if we couldn't do anything ourselves. And then I think the first and specialized person we brought in was a content marketing person because we saw that clearly needs that needs more love and more time to win. and then we brought in a junior content marketing person, which I think was a good move.
I want to ask you about the titles, because LinkedIn says you were head of marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Why not CMO? And again, I will give you a bit of backstory from my end. When I joined Ahrefs, I think in the documents for my Singaporean visa, I was something like product marketing director or something like that. That was kind of my official title according to the documents that Dmitry used to bring me to Singapore. But I think shortly after joining, I myself started calling myself CMO, while being just a single person in the company. But like, why not? I'm responsible for all the marketing in a company. Why does it matter if it's like a team or just myself? And Dmitry didn't mind me kind of jeopardizing this title. And then I kind of slowly grew into it to an extent. I don't even think that I'm still at the level of some of the CMOs of, I don't know, publicly traded companies who have like hundreds of people under their management, etc. But I mean, I called myself CMO from the first day, and I was kind of growing into the role. So tell me about the titles at Pipedrive. Why were you head of marketing specifically?
I think because we didn't spend much time on titles. I think I could have probably called myself CMO. At some point, we were looking for somebody above me called CMO. We couldn't find any, so I could have then remained CMO. So I just didn't spend too much time on it. I didn't say I didn't care completely, but I didn't care too much about what my title was. Like the job was engaging. I had a lot of fun, learned a lot. At some point later, even got paid for the job, even better. So then the title wasn't top of mind.
Do you like right now you're running your own software called Outfunnel? We'll talk a bit later about that. But do you have a CMO or head of marketing there right now?
So we had head of marketing there. Right now, we don't have anybody in marketing full time, but then we had a head of marketing, and then I think it makes sense to not have C-level titles in very early stages. Maybe I would introduce C-level titles after maybe raising an A round, because there may be a need where arguably I was maybe not senior enough as a CMO, and then to bring in a CMO, you would have had to replace me, and that would have created tension. But it's easy to, like, if a head of marketing is not experienced enough to take on like a marketing team at scale, and then you need to bring on an external CMO, it actually makes sense for like head of marketing to report to CMO. So I think it's just, and if you have a smart marketer who is learning very fast, then you could promote them to be the CMO. So I think it just leaves one door open, which otherwise might create hassle. So I would advise to not play the titles game in the very early stages and wait until A round.
Politics.
Unnecessary politics, right? But I think it makes sense to be flexible and to like we all grow out of our skills. Or kind of the company usually develops faster than any single person in the company. That's the norm. There's also always exceptions. So it just makes sense for both yourself and for any people you bring in. That the titles don't define the role too much, so they can be flexible in moving people around and still bring on great people if you need to.
Yeah, I would imagine if Ahrefs had the goal of going for IPO, this would require a lot of changes in the company, and I don't think I would be a good fit, like as a CMO for company that is preparing for IPO and then company that is have IPO'd like a public company. But I think I would accept the fact that I need to step aside, that I would need to bring in a more experienced person who been there, done that, preferably multiple times. And I would love to actually learn from them. I would love to like work side by side with this person, observe what they're doing, like digest everything I can, because then if I go further, like whether with my own company or like change jobs or whatever, or even this person, if they move on, if I did a good job of learning from them, I can replace them. As they go like pursue another like IPO, another big company, I can stay as a CMO at this company because I've learned from them. Or I can move on and I can say that I learned side by side from this CMO who took us public, blah, 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 and I know how to do it. I'm confident in my skills. So yeah, I think as long as a person kind of understands that there's value to having someone on top of them, it shouldn't create tension. But I guess people are emotional creatures, so you better safeguard yourself from these kinds of situations.
Yeah. And I think looking at my own experience is that right now I think arguably I know much more, but I also know that there's a lot of things I don't know yet. So I would be more welcoming to somebody above me than when I knew less.
Yeah.
Because I think when you know less, like when you're younger, less experienced, then you tend to be maybe your ego is a bit more fragile and it needs protection from all sides. So yeah, weird. Like the more you know and the more you develop, the more the less reasons there are to bring somebody above you, the more fine you are about it, which I think is one of the ironies of life.
So SEO and content marketing were big drivers for you guys in the beginning, and word of mouth, as you said, which is a very interesting topic. I also think that word of mouth was super important for growth of Ahrefs because when I joined, I do remember Dmitry telling me that when I was just like considering to join the company, he told me that we have like 5 stars on the quality of product, but 2 stars on the quality of marketing, and they need you to bring the marketing to 5 stars, and then we would have like a 5-star product with 5-star marketing. So in the early days, SEO and content marketing worked for you. How did your marketing develop over time? What kind of channels and strategies and team members were you adding as you kept growing, as you were getting more budget and all that?
So there was one then product-driven thing which was very helpful for growth early on, and then we also started doing paid ads. But I'll start from the product-driven growth channel. So pretty early on, I think 2011 or 12, one of the co-founders noticed that Google launched Chrome Web Store for promoting apps that had a basic Chrome integration, and then created the Pipedrive listing, and a simple integration, which I think took half a day or maybe like 1 day. And then Google started promoting this web store a lot, and there was not too many apps in the web store, and which just took off. Like Pipedrive, I think, got 1/3 of its signups at some point through Google Chrome, and it was the least converting channel. So the trial to paid conversion was among the worst, but because it was literally free traffic, free signups, and some of them did end up converting, it just was great because the product, like you drive them into the funnel. Some people are just looking around; they don't even need a CRM. But those who were looking for a CRM, they saw that the product was good, and then that started feeding the word of mouth engine again. So getting the product out to in kind of free and cost-efficient ways to large masses, like the AppSumo thing, like the Google Chrome Web Store, which I think was like you need to, in order for something to take off, you need to to lay the fuse and then light it, right? So if you just have a great product, it's a product ready to be discovered and shared. But if there's nobody using it, or if there's people using it from countries like Estonia and Finland, then it's not gonna explode in virality.
So this is in line with what you like, with the advice that you're giving on your blog in one of your articles. You frame it as find new emerging platforms, and you tell the story of how you discovered Chrome Web Store early on, and it became like it was generating 1/3 of all signups or something like this. So what I want to ask you is what emerging platforms are you seeing today? And specifically, recently ChatGPT announced their kind of store of ChatGPT apps, or like whatever they call them. Did you create your like app for Outfunnel at this ChatGPT, or like, do you see any other interesting platforms like that people can leverage today?
All the time. I think it's just that there's so this podcast may be listened to tomorrow, or in 2 months, or in 2 years, maybe in 200 years. So I think it's always changing, and it doesn't make sense to tell you what's proper right now. But I think it makes sense to
2024. Let's stick to 2024.
Yeah. So I haven't looked into ChatGPT store too much. There's no Outfunnel up there. But what I'm seeing is that so when Outfunnel launched, Pipedrive's app marketplace was just getting started. And we had a very shitty app back then. Am I allowed to say shitty on this podcast?
Yeah,
I just did.
You are.
Excellent. So we had a very basic app back then, but we were early in the marketplace. We're early in doing the marketplace SEO and marketplace optimization, and that has been a good source of signups ever since. Right now we are, I mean, maybe we should be looking for ChatGPT, but actually I think knowing the audience, our audience is not the tech-savvy developers, product hackers. Our audience is sales managers and marketing managers in companies who are looking after the CRM and marketing tools. They would go to either HubSpot marketplace or Pipedrive marketplace, or I think maybe one of the new emerging B2B app marketplaces would be Monday.com marketplace. So
I didn't know they have one.
They have one, and then it seems that they are quite interested in kind of making it a core part of the product experience. There's plenty of apps. So I think there's always apps who are looking to who are at the right page where they have good enough core product and it's ready for kind of more mainstream market position, and then building a like ecosystem is the next makes a lot of sense. So HubSpot has done it, Pipedrive has done it, Monday.com looks to be doing it right now, and then there's always maybe ChatGPT ecosystem will be one of the things. So there's always something which is up and coming. I just need to know what it is. In 2024, I mean, I think still Salesforce's App Exchange is the biggest kind of product discovery channel, but it's so mature. So as a new company trying to break in, you need to go in with a Dreamforce booth and then a lot of partner commissions, and it's such a kind of old and slow and slightly corrupt ecosystem, and very, I think, already kind of calcified. So it's hard to break in there. So I think in order to make big gains, you need to be there early on, like Pipedrive was with Chrome Web Store, like Outfunnel was with Pipedrive Marketplace, like maybe we will be with Monday.com Marketplace. Pipedrive, I think, also saw a lot of success with some paid marketplaces like Capterra. So Capterra was, we were one of the first advertisers on Capterra because it's kind of looked interesting, and then it was hugely profitable for us. So the cost per acquisition there was I think 1/3 of what we were paying to Google, and then the lifetime value was even better in some categories and in some countries. So we just kind of threw in more budget, as much as we could when we had some budget. At some point, I remember we maxed out Capterra. We couldn't put any more money into Capterra because we were maxed out.
Thank you for bringing this up, because this was one of my next questions. I call them software review websites.
Yeah, it's a good way to call them. It's a very descriptive way to call them. That's what they are.
Yeah, because like I think you describe them as marketplaces, but
I think maybe a better way to call it, I think the broad word would be the platforms. So there's kind of different platforms. This is an app review platform. Others are Google Chrome
I'll
Web Store is
stick to
also like an apps
software review
platform.
websites.
Different kinds of I think marketplaces, but yeah, we can disagree on the terms.
So there are plenty of sites like Capterra today. So there's, I don't know, G2, Trust Radius, yada yada yada, and there are also like bigger organizations like Forrester or something that also do reviews of different, usually enterprise grade softwares, and then they put them on their report. And a lot of enterprise companies reference like, is it a good software to buy? Do you use any of them for Outfunnel right now, or do you plan to use them? Because there are quite a few of them, and we know that they actually started to get quite a bit of search traffic in Google, whether you search for like best software for this, best software for that, yada, yada, yada. But they are quite pay to play. So we get harassed, quote unquote, harassed by many of these software review websites. They send us outreach emails and they offer us different deals. We can put you in this category. We can like pump your rating, or we can like encourage people to leave more positive reviews or like things like that. But we usually avoid those things. I wonder what's your opinion of those websites, and if you plan to use them to acquire customers for your current company, Outfunnel.
Yeah, so we use them, but not as much as we did for Pipedrive. And I think there's a simple reason for that. And I think talking to friends who are in marketing, I see also that there's different results depending on what category they're in. So in a way, this comes back to category awareness and I think category maturity. So I think with CRMs, it made perfect sense to be present at these review websites because it's a well-established, well-known category. And then these sites have done their SEO, so they tended to come up first. So if you're looking for sales CRM or CRM software, I think out of the Google's 10 results, maybe 3, 4, 5 were different review websites. So if you were not there, then some people didn't discover you, and maybe others who discovered you thought that maybe you were not trustworthy enough. So if the review sites, most people don't know that these are paid to play. They just are looking for reviews, and if they don't see you there, if a restaurant doesn't have any reviews, it can't be a good restaurant, right? So it made sense for Pipedrive to be quite active there. Sometimes even we did less profitably, but we wanted to be present because it was good for awareness, especially in the early days. For Outfunnel, the keywords that are relevant for us are not keywords that these review sites are targeting, so we're not using review sites. So a good keyword for us would be, let's say, Pipedrive Mailchimp integration. If you search that, then you end up on Pipedrive and on Mailchimp, and then on us, and maybe some other like Zapiers and other data connecting apps. No review sites come up. So we still are, and then very few people discover us by searching for like data integration platform or something abstract like that. I think it just comes back to keyword research. If review sites come up for the keywords that you're relevant for, then it makes sense to use them, even if they're not always ROI positive. But for us, we have a limited budget for one of the review sites right now, because we want to be there that if people research us and if they also use something like Capterra as their discovery tool or research tool, then we are at least there and we have some footprint there for people to make up their minds. But yeah, we're not super active right now.
Let's switch gears and talk about creative marketing and taking risks, because something you were advising on your blog is that young companies should take on more marketing risk. And there's a fun story where you rented a tram for a month when you were working at Skype, I believe. Can you tell me about this story?
Oh yeah, so Skype back then, So I was a young marketer at a young tech company called Skype, which needed to convince not so much the users, but the larger I think Estonian society that it's an up and coming brand and it's cooler than many established kind of tech employers like banks or IT companies. And we just wanted to be visible in Tallinn because Skype, right now it's not known because it's kind of yesterday's product. But back then Skype wasn't known because it was the tomorrow's product. So we need to make it drive awareness for Skype. And Skype's selling point back then was that calls are free. So something we had been paying for were now free. So we use the same logic for public transport. We rented a tram, paid the city government a fee that riding that tram would be free. We painted it very big and Skype and blue, and then had fun with it. We had like a whole team event when we rode the tram around town and went for drinks afterwards. We hired some promotion girls to check tickets on the tram, and then if people had tickets, then they would get like fined, or they had a flyer that hey, I can now talk for free. And if you're considering a IT career, then come check us out at Skype. So yeah, it was like a fun thing, which I think got us good PR. Like it was like mentioned in some news, and also it was just visible. Like if a tram is driving in a city center for a month, which looks very bright and Skype, and if you ride it, then there's posters inside that say, hey, it's free. Talking should be free, and riding public transport should be free as well. I think it got us some very good word of mouth, and the investment wasn't trivial, but I'm sure that we got many times back.
I am a big fan of creative stuff about something you would consider kind of smart. And this is the biggest compliment for me whenever I post something we did in terms of marketing, like for example on LinkedIn or Twitter, and someone would say, "Oh, that's actually smart." I'm like, "Oh yeah, you've made my day. I'm so happy about this." And I remember again one of the first thing, like sometimes we would even do silly things. So one of the silly things we kind of done is we were sponsoring a conference, and back then our marketing team was very small and thrifty. It was like I think less than 5 people, maybe something like that. And we needed to have a booth at a conference, and we needed to have a roll-up, but we didn't have enough time to think about the design, the copy that we want to put in the roll-up. So what I suggested we do is that just write, we've been spending so much time on our product that we didn't have time to design this banner. And there was like a meme with the person kind of doing like this shrugging, like, sorry, oops. So yeah, I love those silly things, and like renting out a tram, branding it, and getting PR, and even tying it to the product, which was very smart. Like, the calls on Skype are free, and also the rides on this tram that is branded with Skype are free. This is very cool. So
I think it's like I think marketing is best, or at its best, when the message and the product and the value prop kind of merge, and you're not sure where the message ends and advertising starts and where the product ends. So I think there's this tram is a good example of like the Skype is free and then tram is free. So is this tram an ad or is it part of the product? It's hard to tell. I think you see the same kind of thing. Like sometimes when you look at the piece of marketing, you just know it's brilliant, and usually it is where the message matches the product extremely well, and the message also fits the medium really well, and then it's, I think, just a match made in heaven. It's hard to hit all the time because you need to drive ROI, and usually these things are hard to make it hard to either make it ROI positive or hard to measure, like, because these things usually don't go out to millions of users, but maybe to hundreds or thousands of users. But I think still it's good to strive to make as many of these as possible.
Well, I would argue that almost everything in marketing is hard to measure unless you're selling some e-commerce product that people buy within 3 minutes of seeing an ad for it. But usually, again, a sales cycle for a product like Ahrefs is very long, and people have so many touch points that it is very hard to understand how much different marketing things are attributing to the success of the sale. I'm not sure how analytical you are right now for Outfunnel and how you have been, and how much analytics were involved, marketing analytics were involved in Pipedrive, but tell me, what's your stance on that?
Short answer to your question, I'm analytical. Slightly longer answer is that I think the amount of measurement and the kind of measurement you do depends on the stage of the company and the budgets, and then and also what do you do as a result of measurement. So it doesn't make sense to measure just for the sake of measuring. Who cares if this attribution model is slightly more accurate than the other? If you don't change your team structure or budgets as a result of it, it's pointless measurement. So it's just intellectually interesting, but I think you need to be ready to then allocate your resources according to what you've measured. And in some companies, it's not even feasible because the team size is fixed, budgets are fixed, and measurement is just somebody's job. And then I think they just spend too much time on measuring something which can be measured more simply, but just doing it in a more complex way. Sorry for this rant. But for Outfunnel, we use first touch attribution. And although it's not perfect, it gives us enough information for the stage we are currently in to know that, hey, should we do more content or more ads? Should we use this advertising channel or that? It also helps us kind of find new things we should double down on. And when we sometimes pair it with user-reported attribution, where we just ask, how did you hear about us? And we just try to then look whether these two things are correlating and whether there's any conflicts in there.
Okay, let's have a debate. You call yourself analytical. I would call myself analytic agnostic, or like whatever is the right term for this. And again, I had a very cool episode with Rand Fishkin of Ahrefs podcast, where we were kind of patting each other on the back for not kind of believing analytics. And he had he has a blog post about it, about self-attribution specifically, and about the downsides, the flaws of self-attribution. Like people would usually tend to remember bigger things. Like, for example, if they've read about you on TechCrunch, but if they also saw you at a conference, they would probably remember TechCrunch. So there are multiple things that skew what people do in terms of self-attribution. But also, I saw you tweeting that you did the analysis of feedbacks that people wrote you when signing up for your product. Basically, you analyzed the channels based on self-attribution, and you say you have first touch attribution, so you know like which channels are bringing you customers, kind of help you reach the target audience. And you also said that data should lead to decisions. So given that, you tweeted very specifically, like with graphs, how many customers self-attributed to different channels, which was kind of manually categorized, because I also remember tweeting at you to ask if you were categorizing it somehow automatically or if you did it manually. So I wonder what kind of actions followed this research? Or did you look at the graph, said, oh, it's pretty, I'm going to tweet it, and that was it? Or did you change actually something about your marketing strategy?
So first attribution runs all the time. There's an ongoing report, automatic report. I can see it week to week, month to month. And because there was no, and that's the basis of like, should we increase our budgets in Bing or decrease Capterra or increase Google, or do we do more content or less content? There was no big conflicts in the self-reported attribution, other than the fact that the advertising seems slightly bigger. Then we didn't have any action items on upon doing that analysis as such. But I think the one thing, the one small thing we did as a change is that we added AI and GPT as a self-reported source option to the survey, because there's multiple people
But
reported that.
this is like the action item that improved the survey, but didn't influence your marketing. That's kind of different.
It is, but I mean, but had we learned something, I think sometimes you do analysis to see that whether you're on the right track, and then sometimes self-reported analysis can give you a very different picture than your first touch attribution, because neither of them is perfect. If you only use one of them, then you're missing out. I think you need to do both. If they both are more or less saying the same thing, then you can rely on either. But if they're very different, then I think you should find out what's really going on. Then maybe you need to do multi-touch attribution, or maybe you should interview users more, or change the setup survey or something. But I think as a marketer, you should know what works. And some of it is intuitive, but some of it I think is very detailed. And especially I think when it comes to paid marketing, you need to know the details in order to optimize your budget and not waste money, but also not leave money on the table.
So here's a quick thought experiment that I kind of use to illustrate why measuring things often doesn't make sense. So let's say you measured whether like first touch attribution or self attribution, and Google and SEO comes out on top. You get, I don't know, 60, 40, 50% of your customers from SEO. The number doesn't, the exact number doesn't matter. What matters is like it's a major channel for you. Does it mean that let's double down on this? This clearly works? Or does this mean this clearly works, let's double down on something else instead?
So I think first I would say that Google doesn't mean anything. Is it brand search or unbranded search? I think that's what you need to find out first.
You're making it even more confusing. Thank you.
Yeah. And if it's brand search, then how did they find out about the brand? Clearly there's something. But if they're finding you from non-brand search, then you can use something like Ahrefs to see like how you're ranking. And if you're not ranking, if it's already working and you're ranking at number of positions 5 and 10, then you should do some more work. If it's working and you're number 1 across the board, do something else. So sorry for the Ahrefs plug here, but I think it always depends, right?
Please plug Ahrefs as much as you can. This is Ahrefs podcast.
It's a good medium to plug. Okay. What a good place to plug Ahrefs.
You mentioned something that I kind of disagree with, because when you were telling the story of renting a tram for a month, you said that creativity in marketing... No, it's not that I disagree with it. You said that creativity in marketing has decreased with scale. So I believe when you were at Skype in the early days, there were more creativity, or maybe like in the early days of Pipedrive, you could afford doing more silly things. But then as the companies have scaled, I guess the marketing became more boring and straightforward. In my experience with Ahrefs, that hasn't really been the case, because I remember that in my first years at Ahrefs, the marketing was mostly boring because of how many fundamentals we had to take care of. We had to polish like our homepage to make sure the messaging is correct. We had to create landing pages to address different use cases, to explain different like tools and features that we have. We had to publish blog and like address all the questions that people are asking in Google. Lots of like very simple fundamental things where it's very hard to squeeze in creativity. But now as the marketing team at Ahrefs has grown, and like there are certain people in place to take care of certain areas, we actually have some resources now and then to do something fun and silly. So in my opinion, it's kind of like a choice of leadership. And I guess I'm also very lucky that Dmitry, our CEO and founder, he supports most of my silly ideas, because the last April Fool's Day, it was like a week or 2 weeks before it, and I realized that we haven't prepared anything. And I said, what we can do, we can check all the typos that people are making when they search for Ahrefs, because it's hard to spell, so people spell it in all sorts of ways, and we can see all that in Google Search Console. There are like 100 of different typos. And I said, let's design our logo in these typos, and every time people kind of navigate from page to page at ahrefs.com, they would see like a different typo of the logo. And Dmitry, yeah, let's do it, seems fun. So yeah, probably I'm also lucky that Dmitry likes this kind of stuff and he supports that, and he's okay to put some resources into it. But yeah, is in your experience, like from what you're seeing, I don't know, in the industry, in other companies that you have friends at, or observing that the creativity decreases with scale?
So I think two points to that. So first, I'm very glad that there's companies like Ahrefs and like Klaus, which I mentioned before, which now is part of Zendesk, which has disappeared as a standalone brand. So I'm glad that there's exceptions to the rule. But I think most companies tend to get more boring over time because of you have more people. It's hard to. I mean, clever jokes are good, but I think there's a few things worse than bad jokes. I think it's just hard to keep up the taste of humor at scale. So humor is a very delicate thing. I think you need to have a creative director type of thing. Maybe what you are at Ahrefs, who is the guardian of taste, and then so it's somebody's dictatorial taste who says what can and cannot be done, because you can't make like a style guideline of humor. Humor is like very specific thing, so it's subjective, and it can't be controlled by committee. And then third thing which I'd like to say is that so with Ahrefs, and I mean let's maybe now argue then, is Ahrefs successful because of these jokes and creativity, or can you afford to be creative and make jokes because Ahrefs is successful? And then you can just dedicate more time for having fun. And you don't need to kind of fight your way. Like you don't need to fight for oxygen. You can actually freely, like some things are working. It's a great product. SEO clearly is working. Some things you're doing on YouTube is working. Community is working. Great t-shirts. Then you can afford to then spend some time on creative things which you don't need to measure, because the bread and butter is taken care of, and you can dedicate some percentage of your budgets and team to the fun things.
That's a very good point, actually. That's a very good point. I would imagine if things are not going well in a company, the last thing you do is an April Fool's joke.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think there's always like so cause and effect or correlation. What do you have, and sometimes the companies that seem clever or funny and are successful, and they are funny because they are successful already. And then it's a mistake for other startups or other companies to learn from these companies on the pedestal, because there's no correlation there. There's no causation there. There's correlation, but no causation.
Let's talk more about Outfunnel, and let's start from: can you basically pitch your product to me? What does your product do, or like? Can you pitch it to whoever is listening? What problem are you solving, and how are you solving it?
So the problem we're solving is that it's 2024, and then in order to close sales, sales and marketing teams need to work together, and they can only work together if they're working off the same data. So if the underlying data is the same, and then to make this happen, they could go to something like HubSpot, where you have CRM and marketing, and you have this same platform, same customer data, but that can be very costly for smaller businesses, and it's also quite complex. I mean, HubSpot's marketing software is great. CRM maybe not ideal for all use cases. So there are use cases where the company might want to use different tools. So let's say sales team wants to use Copper as a CRM, marketing team wants to use HubSpot or MailChimp. And then we bring then the data together. So we synchronize data between sales and marketing tools, so that sales and marketing teams could work together, getting the same benefits as if they're using a big platform such as HubSpot, but only paying a fraction for it. Because HubSpot can get pricey very pricey very quickly. like into thousands or tens of thousands per month. But if you mixed, I don't know, Pipedrive and MailChimp and Outfunnel, you could pay a couple of $100 per month and get the same benefits.
Let's get more specific. That was kind of general, because you say we synchronize marketing data between sales and marketing, but I'm a marketer at Ahrefs. I'm in charge of marketing department, and we are now have kind of a fledgling sales department, and we are starting to look for alignments. And I think we were actually using Pipedrive. Our sales team was using Pipedrive originally, but then for some reason, which I don't know because I don't really look into it, they switched to HubSpot. So give me the use case, an example of a use case where we would need to use your software.
What do you use also HubSpot in marketing?
No, in marketing, no.
Okay, so I think, but I mean, do you have a newsletter list, right?
What?
You have a email newsletter list for your leads, right?
Yeah.
What do you use for that?
We use MailChimp, and everyone who signs up for Ahrefs, they go into Intercom.
Okay. So
let's consider that we're flexible. So whatever you advise us to do, that you should sync this and that, let's consider that we can potentially do it. So
So let's say you have a leads list, a newsletter list, and then you have somebody in the newsletter list who's like coming from a large company, which would be ICP for your sales team, and they are super engaged with your emails. Like they're clicking on the latest 2 emails that they're receiving from you. This information would be super valuable for the sales team. That hey, this lead who is in our ICP is now engaged. There should be this contact should immediately go to the HubSpot, which they use as CRM, with an action item, hey, follow up with this lead because it seems that they are super engaged. So this is something which is impossible to do or very hard to do if you don't connect your tools deeply and easily. Or alternatively, let's say your sales team starts working on new leads, and then the different companies have different tastes. So let's say that they take a company, Ahrefs, like let's say that they start to target Moz as their ICP. And then some companies then want the people who are in the same company to receive some information about the product or case studies via email or via different ad networks. So you have a defined target list in the CRM, and you want to add these people to your marketing flows automatically, so that as salespeople approach these people, marketing messages also receive this, reach the same people. Does it make sense? So sales ads Moz in CRM as a target account, and then people in Moz start seeing Ahrefs ads, and they also start receiving Ahrefs case studies via email.
How does it work? So we're talking about kind of retargeting, right? So they see ads, for example, on Facebook, and for that we need to upload their emails and create an audience out of them. So basically, what your software does, how does it work technically? So there's a bunch of leads that sales have in their, let's say, HubSpot CRM, and there's a person in our team who is responsible for running ads. And what, sales clicks a button, so please include these leads into our advertising audience, or how does it happen?
Yeah, I mean, if sales has to click a button, that sounds very clunky. But I think what Outfunnel does is, if you build a segment in the CRM, let's say that this is our target leads, we can sync this segment. And this segment is defined by a tag, or maybe they are in pipeline, or they have an open opportunity or open deal. We can sync this segment to, let's say, Facebook custom audience, so that when people are added in the CRM in the segment, these are added to the audience in Facebook. And if people are like this, if somebody falls out of the pipeline, if they say yes or no, then we remove them from the audience, so that we keep custom audience in Facebook in sync with the CRM all the time. Or another use case, let's say you want to do lookalike targeting to people that have bought. We can keep the segment in the CRM called people that have bought in the last 12 months. we keep this segment in sync with the custom audience, so you can build a fresh lookalike audience based on the people that have bought your product before all the time, without anybody needing to import, export data, etc. And same
simple
with
example. Excuse me, I will interrupt you, but I'll give you a simple example that I have in my head, and you'll tell me if I'm thinking in the right direction or not.
Yeah.
So let's say the sales team was working with 100 leads. Mm-hmm. Let's say they converted 20 of them, and 80 leads were marked as lost opportunities. Mm-hmm. And as soon as they're marked as lost opportunities, they can be automatically added to an audience on Facebook. And we start displaying them a banner that says, ha, 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 your loss.
You could do that, yes. So we could sync people that have been marked as lost in HubSpot CRM to a custom audience on Facebook, and then what you show to them is then up to you. You can show them.
So I mean, because you said when I suggested that salesperson needs to click a button to send their lead somewhere, basically the only difference is that you create rules that, depending on the kind of qualities of a given lead. So right now, the lead has become kind of lost lead. Mm-hmm. We can do some automatic actions to them, and in this case, they are added to an audience for retargeting with some kind of message, or they can be automatically added as a segment on MailChimp or ConvertKit to have some follow-up sequence with like, you didn't convert, but we have, for example, some nice educational materials that you can still review, those kinds of things.
Exactly. So you can, based on people entering a pipeline or entering the CRM or exiting a pipeline, you can have them to be in different ad audiences or different email audiences. And we do this syncing. So we make sure that if somebody has been marked won or lost, they're added to the right audience in MailChimp or in your advertising tool. And we also then sync some information back to the CRM, so that if, let's say that you're a lost deal and you get to a lost deal follow-up email sequence, and if you then click on these emails, we sync it back to CRM, so that the salesperson doesn't need to come to MailChimp to see has anybody clicked. The information is brought to where the salespeople work, which is the CRM, and they can then, or if, like one use case is if, let's say that you have an email nurturing sequence, and if some email address bounces, or if they unsubscribe, this is also relevant for salespeople to know that, hey, this person has probably changed jobs, or they've become less interested in what we offer, so you need to follow up manually. So we just kind of help to synchronize key events between, so contact segments both ways, and then key events from the marketing tool back to the sales tool.
So
I should really be better at pitching this, right? I should have my pitch with more humor and with kind of clear, better examples.
You said it yourself. But yeah, I probably need to also do a better job of sending my guests questions in advance so that they would have time to think. But many of the questions and many of the topics that we start discussing are just random. It's like wherever the thought goes. So you cannot really blame me for.
I'm not blaming you. I'm blaming myself for not doing a better job at pitching Outfunnel here. But luckily, with your help, we got there.
So the thing is, it seems like your software actually requires ideas from people of what kind of automations they need to set up. And to make it easier for them, you have to provide them with those ideas, which begs the question, do you have a directory of like 100 examples of automations between sales and marketing that you can configure with Outfunnel?
That's a great idea. I'm going to steal it and create this directory. So
wait,
it's not going to be 100.
How long have you been working on Outfunnel?
So I think we have something. So what we have is we have a blog post with kind of key Outfunnel benefits, which is kind of that, which we link from onboarding emails and we send to new users. But it's not like we're thinking about kind of this recipe, like almost like a recipe book of things you could do. To align your sales and marketing activities.
You should do a let's call it little green book of marketing automation recipes.
Yeah, maybe not green, but yeah,
What color do you like?
Our logo is light blue and purple, so I think it's a light blue and purple book of marketing alignment campaign ideas.
The color thing is coming from, I think there was Little Red Book of Poker or something like that, and it was very kind of popular among people who wanted to learn poker because it was very well written and kind of got people up to speed with how poker works. So I saw then quite a few marketers, when they were naming kind of their resources, they used the color, like little blue book, little green book. So yeah, there's that. But yeah, you should definitely create those examples of automations, because it becomes a much easier sell, because I can see, and it's kind of like, it's similar to case studies. You see what other people did with your software, what kind of automations they have configured. Especially if you can also see outcome, if you can say that the sales team started converting 5% more leads after they started sending like follow-up sequences or retargeting sequences to those who didn't convert, it's a no-brainer that I have to set up this automation for myself and try it out.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So I think this thing that I've been now working with Outfunnel for more than 6 years, and I'm so deep in the product and understanding of the market and the needs that I'm actually a really bad person to market it.
Oh.
Because I have too much information in my. I think things are not obvious to me anymore. Things that should be obvious are not obvious anymore. And sometimes the things which are obvious to me are completely alien to the target audience.
Yeah, which is why you said another interesting thing. You said, I've discovered I get more out of 1 hour of talking to a fellow startup marketer than 10 hours of reading marketing blogs.
Yes, that's very true. I think that's like calls with people like you and the kind of other CMOs, marketers, and now kind of also heads of companies. I love to doing them, and always. Like, I think it's good socially, and it's just good education on good basis to learn what's working in marketing, what's working in management, what's working in life.
Given that you are now a CEO and founder, I think one super relevant topic, which will probably be the last topic of our conversation because we're running out of time, is hiring. So another thing you said is ideas are worthless. It's the team that matters.
Yeah.
And I kind of agree with you. The reason why I agree with you, because I have a huge backlog of ideas, but I don't have enough people to execute on those ideas. At the same time, ideas are also kind of important to come up with something interesting, but then it matters nothing if you cannot accomplish it. So, like, as someone who has started their own company and hired people and built teams, like, what is your advice for hiring people, whether engineers or marketers, or like, how did you go about hiring the team that works with you together on Outfunnel as of today?
So I mean, this hiring is a topic that's been a lot discussed, and there's good books about it. I think I have nothing special to add other than just the basic facts of, like, you should always be hiring, even if you're not hiring. Like, working on the network, seeing, and then if you're not hiring actively, trying out different freelancers, consultants, people you might want to hire later, and then invest in onboarding. So when you bring people in, make sure that there's a good onboarding document, there's a good kind of plans for the first 100 days, and then be proactive and active with feedback, and then two things happen. If you find a great person, then let them operate. Don't kind of micromanage, and if you don't find a great person, move on quickly. I mean, that's the best practice, I think. And
move on means fire them.
Fire them. I mean, I've been asked to move on. I've been fired, but I think for good reasons, because I wasn't the right person at the right time for that particular team or company. And although it was painful at the moment, it would have been. It started good things. It started the learning process, and then things would have been more painful had I not been fired or let go. So, firing is a word I don't like to use. unless somebody steals or does something really stupid. I think you should find people should find place where they can thrive, and I don't thrive in every place, so nobody thrives in every place. So you just need to find the place that you thrive in, and then thrive.
How big is the team of Outfunnel as of today?
It's 7 or 8 people right now. Yes, so it's we're profitable. We were 15 people at some point, but we were then burning money. We could have raised more money, but then we chose to scale back, and now we are actually growing profitably. So we were stable profitably for 4 or 5 months, and for the last 3-4 months we've been growing profitably, which is a great feeling that you add your revenue, you don't need to dilute or do more fundraising, and you're still growing. So which comes with the downside. So we could move faster with more hands on deck, but being profitable, I think is a good thing in itself.
Do you work directly with each of those 7 people, or is there already some hierarchy or organizational structure in place where you would have like a couple people report to you and they manage the other people?
I think right now I work with 7 people. I think you don't want to have too much structure. So there's, I think from around 10, 12 onwards, then you can't have more than 8 people reporting to, I think, reasonably. So we're currently below that threshold. So there's deliberately very little structure.
Last question. I saw you tweeted that you were looking for an agency to manage your website. Were you talking about Purde.net?
No, this is Outfunnel's website.
You needed an agency to manage Outfunnel website.
Yeah.
Did you find anyone?
We found one, but it's proven harder than I thought. I thought finding a WordPress management agency was easy. It seems it's hard.
But what did you do to try and find? Did you post on Upwork other than doing this tweet? What did you do?
No, I just Googled who are like WordPress agencies in Estonia and in the neighborhood, and then had calls with a few, and then picked one. But then are now struggling with getting things done. So working on it.
Okay, maybe someone from a WordPress management agency is listening to it and they can pitch you their services. Yeah,
if somebody is good at the WordPress and Divi, then please email me, and let's live happily ever after.
Okay, we're out of time. Thanks a lot for dedicating 2 hours of your time to this. It's been great to catch up and learn quite a bit more about your history with Pipedrive and what you're doing right now with Outfunnel.
Yes, great chatting, Tim. We should do this, not every week, but definitely want to do it at least once a year. Good chatting to you as always.
Thank you.